and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases for the week starting Friday the 30th of June 2023, including John Krasinski's final all-action CIA mission as Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan on Prime Video, and Apple TV Plus thriller Hijack, starring Idris Elba as a negotiator whose plane is hijacked.
And we'll also be catching up with canine crime solver as Hudson Rex returns to Alibi and meeting a night to remember in the feature-length Netflix animation Nimona. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Jason Bateman, star of that wonderful Netflix series Ozark, he is going to star in and direct a dark 8-part Netflix comedy about two fathers battling over their children's Little League basketball squad. What else is in the news, Hannah?
And Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt's Titus Burgess will lend his voice to Apple TV Plus's musical animation Spellbound, about a fairy tale princess whose parents are turned into monsters.
Action is very much the theme of this week's pod, I would say, Hannah. And we're going to kick off with the return of Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan on Prime Video. And here is a clip.
2 days ago, a strike team assassinated President Udo. And yet, you cannot prove that we weren't involved. Doesn't that concern you?
No, sir. It terrifies me.
You need to manage this, Jack.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to tell him?
This corruption goes way higher than the CIA.
Hey, buddy. Say welcome. I figured we could use the help.
Wish me luck.
So this arrives on Friday the 30th of June. You're going to get 6 episodes, 2 of them dropping every Friday. Now, I've not seen the previous series of this. For me, Jack Ryan will always be Harrison Ford in the brilliant Clear and Present Danger feature film. If you've not seen that, check it out. It's superb. And of course, I think of Krasinski largely in terms of The American Office, where he played the equivalent of Martin Freeman's character. Slightly geeky, lovable everyman, the romantic lead. So he brings something slightly different, I think, to the role of Jack Ryan, the CIA agent. And this is the 4th and possibly the last outing for him in this role, though never say never. Anyway, people who have been watching will know that in the last series, he was wrongly implicated and had to go on the run. He's been cleared now, and he is the CIA's acting deputy director. So we kick off in great style. There's an assassination takes place in Nigeria, and the question is, who's carried out this killing? Could it be a sort of black ops CIA team? So he's brought in to kind of answer questions about that. He says he can't rule it out. Meanwhile, there's a plot about drug running, which sort of switches between Mexico and Myanmar. One cartel trying to kind of take over the whole drug running business and establish supply lines to the Far East. So that all makes sense. You've got Ant-Man star Michael Pena joins as field agent Domingo Chavez. He's very good. You've got Louis Ozawa from The Bourne Legacy as Chow Far, and the return of Wendell Pierce as Jack's former boss, James Greer, and you've got Michael Kelly as his friend and confidant, Mike November. So, yeah, I'd not seen the TV version before, but it kicks off in fantastic action-packed style. Krasinski is a very good lead, I think, and you get a little bit of his human side. You see him with his other half having dinner, and they're both sort of catching up on what's happening in their different jobs. So, yeah, if you like this kind of thing, you won't be disappointed. I think if this is his final fling, it's a pretty good way to go out. Is this your kind of thing, Hannah?
There seems to be a theme with this sort of thing at the moment, because they're looking at main characters who were sort of notoriously just very one-dimensional, I suppose. And they're sort of, I don't know, delving into the characters. And I think this is what happens here, because you learn more about Jack, and I suppose it's the emotional side, I guess. And we've talked in many a pod about this, and looking at sort of the reason why they're like they are, why they do the job they do, and a little bit of background. And I think that, for me, makes it more appealing, actually, rather than just being action-packed and nothing else. So it is. I don't think it's. I don't think it's something that I would choose to watch. But equally, the way that it's been done this time, I think it makes me more interested.
Well, the action doesn't let up, Hannah, because on Apple TV Plus, there's a new series called Hijack, and here's a clip.
There are 200 people on this flight. If they try something, and then this plane goes down, I don't get home to my family. Let me make you an offer.
I've been handed demands.
It's all going wrong in the first hour. Imagine the next 6.
Wow. So, okay, I last week bagged this one to discuss, mainly because it had the wonderful Idris Elba in, who I not only adore to look at, but also for his acting skills, of course. This is absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. Apple TV Plus does things like this excellently, and with no money spared. So this is a routine commercial flight from Dubai to London. This is my worst nightmare. I don't actually love flying particularly, but I put all of these things to the back of my mind, and this really resonates because it's my biggest fear. It's the idea of being out of control, isn't it? Really, is the bottom line. And just what a regular flight, it turns into a absolute ordeal for loads of passengers. I think it's over 200 passengers, as the plane is literally hijacked. And Idris Elba plays the part of a business negotiator. So he's on the flight, he plays the part of Sam Nelson, and he's got to use every skill known to him to try and avert this disaster, because this gang of criminals has seized control of the plane. They've got into the cockpit. I mean, of course, we all know these days it's pretty hard to get into the cockpit, I'll be pleased to say. After you've watched this, you'll agree. And it's really interesting. I think they do it really well. It's done in real time. So I think it's a 7-hour flight, and you are with it every single step of the way. So I think it's over 7 episodes. And you look at the passengers on the flight, and some of them just sort of frozen in fear. They can't even look up. Some of them are crying. Some of them are sort of, all hunched over, terrified. But he manages to send a text message to his estranged wife before everything is cut, and he's unable to send anything again. So they are kind of aware on the ground of what's going on. And it is really all about him and trying to get on side with this gang, trying to make sure that he gains the trust of the lead hijacker, Stuart, who is Litvinenko star Neil Maskell. And it's terrifying, but as you'd imagine with Idris, he's cool as a cucumber, just completely, but he brings something to the party. He's such a big person too, he's really built. And he talks this passenger next to him all the time, and if ever this was going to happen, you'd want him next to you. You just would. I mean, just to spend the last few seconds with him, right? But you would want him there because he's just so calm. And on the ground, of course, they're trying to do everything they can to get up to the flight to ensure that this flight does land safely. Now, his estranged wife, his boyfriend, is played by Max Beasley, Daniel Farrell, and he actually helps too. So you can see the people on the ground, the people that are affected. And as I say, I think this real time, the idea that every single episode you are there with that plane, almost adds to the sort of pressure that everybody's feeling, and you're just with them every step of the way. I think it's absolutely brilliantly done. I'm not going to give anything more away, but Ian, you must have loved it too, right?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And the slow build-up is great. So they take their time, everyone at the airport and then getting onto the plane. And you've got, as usual, some really annoying passengers. So there's a family with the kid playing a really noisy video game and complaining that people are putting things in their overhead luggage bin. And then next to Idris, there's this guy, again, who's on his phone and is far too loud. And you think, yeah, this is what air travel's like. So there are some clever little twists in it. First of all, the hijack very nearly goes wrong. I won't say why. So there's a lot of jeopardy there, very exciting. And then there is the ingenious way in which they figured out how to get into the cockpit, which again, I'm not going to spoil it. And Idris is biding his time. Of course, there are a couple of passengers who want to take matters into their own hands. You think, oh no, it's all going to kick off. And episode 1 ends with a real kind of cliffhanger and a bit of a surprise. It's excellent. Idris, as ever, is superb. Really good to see Neil Maskell playing the leader of the baddies, because he's often cast as a slightly seedy detective, isn't he? And he's a great actor. And good to see Beasley back as well. He's there's an uneasy sort of relationship with his girlfriend's son, Idris's son. That's quite well done. So yeah, I think absolutely recommended. Loved it. Even more action, Hannah, dare I say it, but of the canine variety, in the returning crime drama Hudson Rex on Alibi. And this is a clip from an interview with a couple of the stars.
We have a new member on our team, and the character's name is Karma Poole, and she's a new forensic pathologist.
Dr. Karma Poole. Hi. I wanted to tell you that I am really thrilled to be a part of your department.
Oh, it's good to have you aboard. And she is another woman on board who works in the morgue, and yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a new addition to the team.
So I don't know if you're familiar with this one, Hannah. It's the 5th series. It's set in Newfoundland. Beautiful Newfoundland. I've been there, actually. I went there for a conference, and it's a really nice part of the world. And St. John's, the capital, where this is sort of set in and around St. John's, famous for its music scene. But that's by the by. So Hudson and Rex, who are they? Well, John Reardon plays Detective Charlie Hudson, and his sidekick is Rex, the German Shepherd. And I was lucky enough to meet them in person in London for a chat. And yeah, met Diesel. He's a big lad. The two great things I'd say it's got in its favour, it's kind of it's a little bit old school, I would say. It's a bit retro in some ways. But it's got the beautiful Newfoundland backdrop, and it's got this great dog Diesel. And Diesel also has stunt dogs who do the great stunts. So Diesel is often like jumping through windows, or he'll jump off a rooftop, or he'll jump up and knock a gunman to the floor. So it's just we're both dog lovers, but watching this very talented dog performing is an absolute joy. Episode 1 centres on a woman who's gone missing, and there's almost a mob thinks that her partner has murdered her, basically. Yeah, it's a sort of case of the week type show. Thoroughly enjoyable. I liked it, and I particularly enjoy watching Diesel as Rex. Did you like this, Hannah?
I mean, Diesel stole the show, didn't he? I mean, there's nothing else to talk about just apart from the dog. I always think, like, as you say, because we are dog lovers, I always think, how on earth do they make these dogs do these things? I can barely make mine to sit. They like jump through windows and, sniff out missing people and generally behave amazingly. But I think the trainer's been interviewed, and apparently Diesel was given, real star kind of treatment on set, and it's just had the best time ever, because I always think about that, how are they made to do these things? But it sounds like he just an absolute bull. But yeah, absolute star of the show, and I really enjoyed it. But it does feel quite old-fashioned, you're right. It does feel quite retro in places, but it still works.
We're going to finish up with something slightly different on Netflix. It's a new feature-length animated adventure called Nimona, and here's a clip.
Who are you?
The name's Nimona. Your sidekick has arrived.
I don't need a sidekick.
Every villain needs a sidekick.
I'm not a villain!
real villain is still out there, and I do need help.
And then, who do you want to kill first?
What?
Look, I can help you, but promise me you won't freak out.
Why would I trust you?
Promise!
I promise!
Yes, this is quite different. So this fantasy adventure is set in a futuristic medieval world where magic and technology combine. It's all about a former knight, which Oscar nominee Riz Ahmed lends his voice to, and he's falsely accused of a crime. He is going to be awarded by the Queen. He raises his sword and it kills the Queen, and everyone thinks he's killed her, and he goes on the run and blah-de-blah-de-blah. Now, he was falsely accused. Of course, it wasn't him. It was all a big, massive setup. But he finds an unlikely ally in Nimona, who's a very mischievous girl. She can change into all sorts of different things when she wants to, and she wants to prove his innocence. So, as always with these things, there's a real sort of moral of the story. Good will conquer evil, and we will get the truth in the end. But it's just slightly different. It sort of breaks a lot of the kind of animated traditions that we're used to. So for a start, it is it's being released in time for Pride weekend, isn't it, for LGBTQ+, and you see same-sex relationships in this, which I think is probably a relatively newish thing to do, but brilliant. Don't know why it hasn't happened much before. And it sort of breaks the realms of the traditional ideas that we have around animation, I suppose, and I quite like it for that. It feels quite maverick in places. I'm not sure about the storyline. I like the fact that this teenager is a girl. I think that's really cool. She comes in to sort of save the day, and she's almost more ballsy, for want of a better word, than he is. You know, she's just feisty and fiery, and she's got fire in her belly, and she's just not scared of anyone. So I really like that kind of shift as well, because it's usually the boys that win. I quite liked it. It was just a bit different, and it just felt quite empowering, I would say. What did you think, Ian?
I really liked it. I must say, I particularly like the sort of this retro futuristic theme where you've got knights in armor, but you've got lasers and flying cars and all sorts of things. So that was an interesting backdrop. Chloe Grace Moretz of Kick-Ass fame voices Nimona, and yeah, the fact that, as you say, she can change into pretty much anything she wants means that some of the fight scenes are just fascinating, because she's changing to a gorilla or a sperm whale, you name it. So that's great. And she's a very funny character as well, because she's obsessed with like killing people, and Riz Ahmed's character saying, no, you don't have to kill everyone. So yeah, and you've got the love interest. Riz's character is in love with one of the other knights. That's rather charming, and he's trying to clear his name. So yeah, I thought it was really different and very enjoyable. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what you've been binge watching this week. So please reveal all.
I have been watching Mia and Me on Netflix, and if you haven't watched it, get the box of tissues ready, because it's an incredibly sad story that is true. And yeah, you need to come up for breath and turn it off and pause it for a minute, walk away, because it's one of those ones that that stays in your mind when you've long left it, but definitely want to watch.
Well, rather belatedly, I finally watched The Iron Lady, all about Margaret Thatcher, on Netflix, which I'd not seen. And I have to say, Meryl Streep, superb in the lead role opposite the wonderful Jim Broadbent. So worth a look if you've not seen it. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offering. So what are we going to be talking about, Hannah?
Well, we're both going to love this, because there's a new Netflix documentary about Wham, which traces George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley's journey from school friends to global superstars.
And a dysfunctional family faces brutal truths in the ITVX comedy drama The Effects of Lying. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime,
watching.